met Don Holbrook when I was just a young man. It's been 30-something years ago. He was, I can't remember if he was just a regular line bull or if he is a sergeant. I don't remember. But I do remember him going up the ladder and, going up in rank, to lieutenant, then the captain, the associate superintendent, then the superintendent, and then he became the second in command of the whole prison system for Washington State. But one thing I always appreciated about Don Holbrook was he was a fair man, and he was always even. He never ever tried to look down on us, for guys being in prison doing time or nothing. He always spoke straight to you, and I really respected that about him. And he's a good man. And he retired, and I wish him the best.
I'm Don Holbrook. I am from Walla Walla, Washington. Started at the penitentiary in 1989, kind of coming out of college, so about 36 years ago. Spent 33 years there in various capacities. Started as a correctional officer, and then kind of went up through the uniform, and then ended up into associate superintendent for the last 8 years. And currently, I'm the assistant secretary over men's prisons, which is a position out of headquarters. I don't know the first time I met Chief, but I think it's been over the course of knowing him for as long as I've been at the penitentiary. So we probably met in one of the living units, probably 6 or 8 wing, closed custody environment. Back then it was just your daily interaction with the population. You get to know people, especially the time you spend there. You get to know people very well. It's not like somewhat today you kind of see people, a lot of new people in the environment. People are kind of transitioning in and out, but it seems like we spend a lot of time in the living units and the close custody area. I don't recall Chief in too many medium or camp. He's never been at camp, but at some point in time in my career, he did transition to medium. We spent a little time there. Camp is, kind of 6 years to the door. You're on your way out transitioning. So before his recent activity, I think it's been pretty much medium or close custody. And every level of custody, it kind of transitions. So you can be at max custody, which is your highest level of custody, then close custody, medium custody. Each rung has a different staffing level and supervision requirements around it. Folks that have, a lot of time life without or structured like that can live in a medium setting. A lot more programming opportunities and out-of-cell activities. So, and then camp, obviously, much lower level of staff and less supervision as well. And you're transitioning and trying to keep it more to a point where you're in an environment which is inclusive to where you're going.
Can you describe as close as possible, your first impression of Chief?
I don't think my first or my last impression is probably going to be different. I think our relationship, is respectful. So over the years, I think, I just talked to some staff coming in. They're going through like the amend principles right now. I think growing up in the environment, I'll tell you, I had no clue what I was getting into. People don't grow up and say, I want to go work in prison, nor do they grow up and say, I want to go to prison. So I think what you have is two entities that come together. And in my opinion, I think what we base our relationships on is, respect. And so I think that's kind of where the whole population, there's a mutual understanding of that, and I think both sides do not violate that, and you try not to. And you see that happen where respect is violated one way or the other, and it's never a good outcome with that. So I think, whether it's today or whether it was 33 years ago, 36 years ago, our relationship was basically based on respect and just, understanding that each of us got an environment we had to live in or work in, and we make the best of that world.
Have you seen any changes in Chief over the years that you've known him?
We've both traveled down a road. We had our ups and downs with both of our careers, I guess you could say that. I don't know that you see change. I think what we see, and I can't remember back to when I first met him, but usually people first coming into the system, it's almost like they fight it, and you just got this roller coaster ride with people coming in. The environment has changed, You got a newness on your staff, so that's where the worlds collide, and you just got to kind of try and get out the other side. What I see is, 10, 15 years, people start getting a little older, a little more wisdom. They start understanding and accepting what it is that they're in, and you kind of move to better ground. So I think he probably went through the same transition as everybody else, and at some point in time, I think they transitioned to accepting it, and then, in his case, at some point in time, he was given another opportunity, and I think he protected that to a point where he's seen it through. Potential release, whether, and that's something you see in today, that, you have Blake, you have clemency actions going on with people that, potentially had crimes that were in their juvenile states, so that's what we're seeing a little bit more of. Didn't see a lot of that through the years that I've been here, and we've just seen more of that through the last 5 or 6 years.
And can you talk about any positive interactions you've had with the chief?
We've had several. I think the one thing that you won't see is there's a day-to-day grind that we are in an environment together for, whether it's an 8-hour or a 16-hour shift. I think we're in their backyard. They're living places. So there's some positive bantering and just engagement that goes on there, and then there are opportunities where you see people kind of backsliding a little bit. Our job is to kind of help them get to a better place, and then you engage in the activities they engage. I know me and Chief have been to a lot of powwows, various ones. I know he was integral part of setting those up and making sure they went, and the ones that I have attended were just well attended, well put together. A lot of people look forward to those powwows. So those are all positive interactions, and I know we've also shared some positive interactions with building like the SPL. He was a part of, kind of the front end of the SPL, which is a sustainable practice lab at the penitentiary that just gives people opportunity to express some of their skills that they may have or skills they may not have, but it gives the opportunity for people to download, and he was a part of that as well, especially bringing in, building a lot of regalia, just different types of native pieces for the powwows and things, but also sharing the culture with other people in that environment. So those were things that we see, but yeah.
Do you see the native culture in prisons, how do you see that as a positive? Do you see that helping people?
Yeah, I think the positive piece of that is, you get, like Gabe, I told Gabe, because you deal with some frustration with, dealing with population or dealing with the process to get in and out, with all the things that may impact trying to get a powwow off and running. But without Gabe and those guys engaging, I would have never have honestly learned about the native culture, the powwows. My first powwow was in a prison. But you start learning about not just the native culture, API culture, you got different religions and aspects that go on in that environment. You just got to remember everybody that is living there or works there, they're just from a different background or culture or religion, and when you go to prison, that's a rite of passage. So we provide, all those levels of activity, and along the way we learn. So I think allowing people, one, to practice what their culture is and their religion, I think that's important because it does give them some structure, gives them something to look forward to, and hopefully kind of keeps them out of harm's way and on a straight and narrow path. So there is a positive side to all of that. Francis Cullooyah, I remember when I first met Francis, so there's a couple things about him that were very interesting. Because one, when I met him, he had already been there, Tanya, I don't know, 44, 45 years. He has basically served some sort of capacity at the prison. And early on, I met him, and the one thing that was really nice to do is just listen to him speak. He had a way with the population, referred as an elder, but when he started speaking, it was just a lot of wisdom, but he carried, in my opinion, a heavy hand on the population, meaning that He expected, those people to kind of not drag the politics and things into the circle. There were several things that we had to work through. One of them was, a sweat lodge. I remember there was just a lot of arguing and things going on, and we asked Francis to come down with an elder Fred, I think was his name, up from the Spokane. And we wanted to kind of show him what it is that we were wanting to do. And we walked out there, and really this is how it went. We went out there, we kind of explained the process and where it was going to be, and all he said is, "This'll do." And we were done talking, and we were moving in a direction. And I appreciated that because really we wanted the best for both entities, because it's currently in place. The sweat lodge is shared by 2 different levels of custody, but what we got tired of seeing is just these small sweat lodges where we just had multiple people jammed in them, and it just was not healthy. It was not something that we wanted to see, so we just expanded it. The other thing that Gabe and Francis and myself kind of had a conversation about are the medicine gardens. Francis came in and blessed the ground for our first medicine garden in the state of Washington for, the natives to grow and to harvest what it is that, they seen fit in this medicine garden. And now we pretty much are close to having them in most of the facilities. So, yeah, we will miss him. I just appreciate his leadership. He was kind, very full of wisdom, and so I just appreciated him helping us kind of keep these people on a straight and narrow path. I know he's in a better place, but it truly will be